I would like to invite Elaine Henderson to come forward to light our chalice and lead us in our affirmation of covenant, which is found in your order of service.
I light the chalice with these words: open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Open our minds to learn what is true. Open our hearts to love one another. Please join me in the affirmation of covenant, which you will find printed in your service, saying, Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
There's a Sufi story I learned from my friend Sidney Wilde. It's called The Little Stream Called to the Sea. And it goes like this. Once there was a little stream that dreamed of flowing to the sea. The stream started in an aquifer, a huge pool of water underground, but the call of the ocean was so strong that the stream pushed its way through nooks and cracks up through the earth until it burst forth into the air and began its journey toward the sea. As its waters bubbled to the surface, they ran down the hill, carving the stream bed into the earth. Sometimes the stream babbled as it traveled. Sometimes it gurgled. Sometimes it roared. At times the stream traveled alone. Its waters were so clear you could see the pebbles that lined its bed. At other times the stream ran through great lakes, or tumbled over a cliff, or joined other streams to form a river, and then split again to travel alone. But always, always the little stream yearned to flow into the sea. Sometimes the stream would run fast and deep, eager to reach the sea. Fish swam in its waters as it carried them swiftly on its journey. Sometimes the stream would grow wide and slow, and it would carry boats on its back as it continued its journey. But always, always, the little stream yearned to flow into the sea. One day, just as the call of the ocean seemed to grow a bit stronger, the stream found itself growing sluggish. Its waters grew thick with mud, until sadly it pooled into a brackish mud hole right at the edge of a desert. "Woe is me," said the little stream. "Now I'll never get to the sea." It tried going around the desert, but the desert was too wide. It tried going under the desert, but the desert was too deep. Still, even with mud in its ears, the little stream heard the call of the ocean and yearned to flow to the sea. After what seemed like a long time, as the stream just pooled there in the sun, it began to hear a second voice. "I can take you to the sea, little stream," whispered the wind. "Come with me. I'll carry you to the ocean shore." "How could you do that?" scoffed the stream. "You are only made of air." "I can carry you on a breeze," whispered the wind. "But you must be very brave, for you must let go of yourself and change." "I've changed many times," said the stream. "But this will be different," said the wind. The little stream paused, but deep within the stream still yearned for the sea. So the stream let go, and the wind picked it up particle by particle. At first the stream was scared, for it felt lost. It was no longer a stream, but was turned sort of inside out and had become moisture swirling in the sky. The view was like nothing the little stream had ever seen before. Not only was the whole world laid out below it, but it was surrounded by sparkling jewels. Then what had been the stream realized that all those sparkling jewels were parts of itself. Molecules of water, droplets of moisture sparkling in the light. What had been the stream realized that it was truly beautiful on the inside. Next, the stream turned moisture, saw that it was not alone, for the wind had whispered to other streams and ponds, and even to the morning dew upon the oasis. All had turned into moisture. All their parts were also sparkling in the sun. Together they were even more beautiful, for the sunlight had changed them all into the colors of the rainbow. Then the little stream turned rainbow felt itself falling and falling and falling. All the other droplets were falling too, until plop, 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 plop. All the droplets ran together into a mighty river, which rushed down a mountainside, across a coastal plain, and into the sea, where the waves pushed it back and pulled it forward, and the currents carried it far out into the pulsing depths. The little stream was content. But I understand that every now and then the wind would breeze by, whispering to the currents of the sea, "Come with me, come with me." And that the moisture would rise up into the wind and be carried away to start all over again. Are you in that story? The storyteller Laura Sims once recalled a conversation she had with the late Joseph Campbell, the celebrated authority on myth and comparative religion. Campbell said to her, "Oh, so you're going to be a storyteller? Well, then the first thing you have to know is that your whole life is a story." And then she told of an experience she had talking with children about stories. She said, "I was in a school on the Upper West Side of Manhattan with the 4th and 5th graders, and I asked them what would happen if there were no stories in the world. And they all agreed, of course, that if there were no stories in the world, I would have no job. Their parents would not be able to explain anything to them. There would be no lies. Their uncles who went fishing could not be able to come home and boast about what they did. There would be no history." Then suddenly, a little girl sitting in front of me, her hand shot up, and before I even looked at her, she said, "Well, if there were no stories in the world, there would be no world. Stories made the world." What story are you in? What story do you belong to? What story do we belong to? One reason people come to churches is to find a faith community and us to belong to. A larger story of a group to connect with. One ministry of a Unitarian Universalist church is to provide that us, to be a welcoming and caring and redemptive community, welcoming to all who feel at home in a free faith based upon a covenant to seek the sacred together in truth and in love. Caring toward all who are in need, toward all who suffer, however they suffer. And redemptive for all of us who, being human, fail and make mistakes and learn and grow and change. If, like the little stream that yearned for the sea, we yearn for connection to something larger than ourselves, then, like that stream, we sometimes must change or be transformed to reach our goal. A redemptive community recognizes and respects such personal or communal transformation as the turning point of a story, an event of great promise and meaning. And its members encourage one another toward spiritual growth through and after such moments. At our best, that's the story we're in as church people. A story of welcoming and caring and redemptive support. That's our story. And there is a larger story still that we're in as church people, the story of our Unitarian Universalist heritage. I'm going to explore some of that heritage in the coming weeks. People do come to churches to find a religious heritage to belong to, a source of religious identity. One ministry of our churches is to tell that larger story, to articulate our heritage and its meaning, the values and truths we preserve and pass on from generation to generation. Our church is like the flaming chalice, a vessel that contains the fire of our faith, a beacon shining forth the light of sacred truth, a hearth radiating the warmth of holy love. To kindle the flame of faith in the chalice of our being as a faith community, we tell both the story of our connection to one another and a story larger than ourselves, a story of our cherished tradition. And then we are part of the story of the place where we live, the story that we make day by day with our neighbors, the story of Little Rock and of Arkansas and of the Union. This is a story made of many stories woven together, and it's one we've always found hard to tell. The current political drama around the LEARNS Act and AP courses that we are living through is part of a now centuries-long struggle to know what to say about the American experience that is honest and accurate and has positive meaning for us today. We are fortunate to have Central High School at this moment, both the school and the National Historic Site, well rooted in their mission of education and fostering understanding of the American past. What we face in this moment, culturally and spiritually, is the necessary work of uprooting lies instilled for generations, starting in the last decades of the 19th century, that were told specifically to divide us, to enforce the social hierarchy of white privilege and power, and to make excuses for ongoing abuses of certain categories of people among us. It is to lean into the charge given us by Martin Luther King to live out the true meaning of our nation's creed. All are equal, we said at the start. That's a self-evident truth. So let us lean into equity. Bringing that work to the schools is not indoctrination. It's inviting our children to seek truth and freedom. It's offering them the question, what story are we in? What story do you see? What story are you in? What is your story? Looking back on your life, how does it all hang together? And how many, inshallah, experiences have you had? When you make plans, does God smile or laugh? Sometimes the church can provide opportunities for people to explore their own stories, to tell their stories, to name their experiences, to find meaning in it all. Sometimes in small groups that meet regularly, like covenant groups, the same people each time provide safe space for individuals' stories to be heard and appreciated. Such intimate religious community can help a person to tell and find meaning in their story and encourage spiritual growth through knowing and telling and interpreting one's own story. Sometimes a trained leader called a spiritual director or coach or guide or companion or friend, there are many names for this, can provide safe space and support of that kind one-on-one. Spiritual direction is a term from the Christian monastic tradition for a regular meeting with someone who listens to your story and ponders it with you. Offers support for your spiritual practice, whatever that may be, prayer, meditation, yoga, gardening, sports, the arts, even such basics as proper diet and exercise, and encourages you to seek for new directions for growing and becoming more awake and alive. There's a sort of guild for people trained in spiritual direction called the Spiritual Directors International, and there is also a Unitarian Universalist Spiritual Directors Network. This is a growing movement both within Unitarian Universalism and around our ever more unchurched world. What story are you in? What story are we in? What stories are we in that weave through each other like the little stream as it ran through the Great Lakes or tumbled over a cliff or joined other streams to form a river and then split again to travel alone? What stories do we meet, touch, pass through, interact with day by day, year by year? There's a traditional Jewish story called the story of the Baal Shem Tov's prayer. The Baal Shem Tov, who was a rabbi in Eastern Europe in the 1700s, had a way of averting misfortune when his community was threatened. He would go to a special place in the forest, he would make a special fire, and he would say a special prayer, and the misfortune would be averted. But as one generation followed another, his particular way was lost piece by piece. His first successor as rabbi didn't know how he made the special fire. In the next generation, his special prayer was forgotten. A generation later, no one could find that special place in the forest. In the end, only the story of what he did was known. And we are told that for the generation who had lost all of it but the story. To tell the story was sufficient to avert misfortune. How can that be? It can be because the ritual did not avert the misfortune. The storytellers are careful to say that the Baal Shem Tov did the ritual and the misfortune was averted. And, not therefore. It was not the secret place in the forest, or the fire, or the special prayer, or even all of them together that did the trick. The ritual didn't change the world. It wasn't addressed to the world. The ritual changed the Baal Shem Tov. And parts of his ritual changed his successors. And in the end, the story was enough to change those who heard it and told it. The story was a way of keeping connection with the sacred, with the fullest love and the highest wisdom. The particular place and practices didn't matter so much. The Baal Shem Tov's prayer was like when Elijah met God, not in the wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire. The message is, if the Baal Shem Tov could do it, so could his successors in their own way. And you can too. The connection to the fullest love and the highest wisdom is something all of us can have if we seek it. And then we can meet any misfortune with sufficient courage and efficient deeds. This is how stories can awaken us. This is how stories can be sufficient. That's what a good religious story can do. That's what a Zen koan is meant to do. It's what the great epics of India, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, are meant to do. Even folk tales like those of Nasruddin can serve the purpose. They put you in touch with your own inner resource of love and wisdom. What story are you in? What stories do you tell? What stories do you long to hear? What stories do you return to regularly? Do you return to your own story, your own life, to find your courage and wisdom and love and to seek for new directions for growing and becoming more awake and alive? I hope so. And may we each find support for looking at our own stories regularly in church, in our faith's heritage, in the traditions of the world, in spiritual friendships, and most importantly, in our everyday lives. So may it be. Amen.
I would like to invite Elaine back up to extinguish our chalice. Now please join us in saying our closing words printed in the order of service. Go out into the world in peace, have courage, hold on to what is good, return to no person evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering, honor all beings.
And may you find courage and wisdom and growth and love in your own life story.